Hi everyone, I'm back for another how I did, what I did, and what I used video. This was a wall hanging project that I created. I got the idea from a set of papers I got from Prima. Well, not from Prima, but they're Prima papers. Back in 2007, I believe it was, in 2008 maybe it was, Prima came out with these paintables, card stock sheets, and one of their sheets, this one here, reminded me of something that would be adorable for a little girl's room. So I decided to make a wall hanging, and I got out my watercolor paints and realized very quickly, they were new and I had never watercolored before, that watercoloring was very difficult for me. I didn't like the fact that I didn't have a lot of control and stuff over it, and it was a bit of a battle, this project was. But eventually, of course, I got it done, and I realized that part of me was very controlling and I needed to let go a little bit. So it was a good learning lesson for me. So I originally started off with watercolor paints and realized that I didn't really like the look of them. So I went through multiple sheets of this particular print, and eventually I got out other things to use as watercolor. So I got out some of my distress inks. I got out some of my Stampin' Up markers, and what I started to do was rub them on my Tim Holtz craft sheet and just start spraying them down, watering them down. So for instance, for the grass, I took my green galore, I simply marked it all over my sheet, and then I spritzed it, and then using a paintbrush I did a watercolor technique. I used for the actual fence, I did use watercolor paint, and then for the flowers I mixed up my Stampin' Up Pink Passion pen and Pixie Pink. I used those. I mixed them up, and then afterwards I went over them with my pink azalea silks to give them a little bit of a shimmer. And for the purple flowers, I used the seedless preserves. I did the same thing, stamped it on the craft mat, spritzed it, and then just used watercolor. And for that one, I eventually went over those with my Snapdragon silks. For the orange, I used the Spiced Marmalade Distress ink of Tim Holtz. Same thing, stamped on the sheet, spritzed it, and then went over those flowers with the Ginger Peach silks. For the yellow, it was Mustard Seed Distress ink, and then I used that same yellow for the back of the panels. For sunlight, same thing, spritz with water. And for the blues, around here, it was the Salty Ocean and watered down, and then in between here you can notice it's a little darker because I went over it with the Ocean Wave silks. Then for the smaller flowers here, was watered down peacock feathers that I used. And for some of the flowers and for the balloon, picked raspberry distress ink, and then for these balloons I used the seedless preserves for this one, and then for this one it was the Salty Ocean as well. these got really watered down because I wanted this effect where it was different, a lot of different shades on the balloons. And then for the green balloon and for the grass, I used Mowed Lawn Distress Ink. And you can see on these leaves, hopefully you can see there's a little yellowish tinge to some of them. It was because I was mixing up the yellows and the greens. So after I did the flowers, I did them again on another sheet and I cut them out, and you can see how I cut these out and layered these. I glued them back, a second layer back down using my glossy accents. And then I wanted to add something to them, so I added the Kaiser Craft self-adhesive pearls to the centers of some of them. And then for the white, I used one of my white gel pens. This one here. It's the Jelly Roll white gel pen. I don't know if you can see that there, but yeah, it was and I just did some accents there, and I did the accents on the fence as well. So for the inside photo, I wanted it to be a summery day with, like I said, a theme of something for a little girl. So Magnolia Stamps, if you've never heard of them, have the most gorgeous stamps. A lot of little girl, little boy stamps that they have. Plus they have some of these fun little critters as well. So when I bought the stamps that I have from them, they sell this wonderful binder, and you can put them in there. And they take up less space. The only thing is, I didn't keep the titles. I used to have such a bad habit of that, not keeping the titles of what I bought on the packaging and stuff. So today I just stamped them so you could see how I put the pictures together, because I used pieces of some of the stamps, not always the whole stamp. So for the little girl herself, I did use the whole stamp, as you can see. And then I just stamped her again, or the hearts balloons again and again till I had the 4 balloons. And then I stamped the flowers again because I wanted more of a 3D effect, which I don't think you can really see on here, but I do have close-up pictures on my blog. So on here I had used my Stampin' Up markers, some of my Stampin' Up markers, and colored in the flowers, and then I did them a couple times so I could layer them up on top of each other. So for her, I tried 9 times with watercoloring effects to get her skin, her hair and stuff, and I hated it constantly. Every try I did, I didn't like it at all. So eventually I decided to pull out my Copics, and I had only ever used Copic markers once to do a little tiny teddy bear stamp that I had, but I decided to go for it. I'd watched so many videos online of wonderful women teaching you how to do skin and hair and stuff like that on YouTube. So I took out my Copics, and I didn't always have what they used. So for her skin, I went over her skin completely with the I don't think you can see that. I think it's blurry. Maybe if I took it off. I went over her skin completely with the E00, and then the E11, and then just to darken up around the edges a little bit, E33. So after I did that, I cut her head out, and her arm and her little hand, and I colored them separately so I could put it back over. And those were the colors that I used for her skin. For her blushing cheeks, I used the R20 just to add a little blush to her cheeks. I'm hoping you can see those. Then for her hair, I used one of the same ones that I used for her skin, actually, and I believe It was the so I used the E25, and for the darker parts the E29, and I believe for the center I used the E11. I believe is the one I used for her hair to give her the highlights and stuff. So those were the colors that I used for her hair. And then I liked that look a lot better, so that's the one I went with. So I chose that one. Chose the Copics. So I cut out part and just layered her up. For her blues and her little shorts, I used once again the Salty Ocean and the Peacock Feathers watered down. And then for her shirt, it was the watered down Sealess Preserves, and I believe I used the watered down Pixie Pink Stampin' Up marker for her shirt and her tights. And then for her boots, I used the Pixie Pink Stampin' Up marker and the Always Artichoke for her boots. And then the dirt was once again just the same watercolor, just watered down even more watercolor paint. So that was for her. For this one here, the little branch with the very tiny bird, this is another Magnolia stamp. And so I didn't want to use this obviously, so I just stamped the bird and the branch. And then instead of the snow, having the snow on it, which is on the stamp, I just drew a little line across there and then just used the watercolor brown paint to give it some dark edges and stuff like that to get rid of the snow effect and stuff. And then for the little bird, once again, it was the same blue. It was the same Stampin' Up. I just used a little lighter version for him, for the Salty Ocean. And then for the tulips, Magnolia has this beautiful stamp here. So what I did was I stamped this up here, and then I needed some extra flowers, so I re-stamped from here down and then just stamped across the page so I could get like a longer path. For the butterflies for this one, I used the butterfly from this Magnolia stamp. I love this one, but I wanted her, so I just took the butterfly from that one. And then after I colored them, I just cut them out, popped them up on popped up dots a little. For the Create, Learn, Love, and Grow message on this one, I used my Image Tree stamps. Once I had them stamped out, I used my Versamark, of course, with my Stampin' Up black embossing powder. Oh, one more note. For this is the best ink I've found so far, Memento Black, Tuxedo Black. The best for when you're using Copic markers because it doesn't smear the black ink. So many other inks kind of they bleed when you're using the Copic markers, but Memento, I don't have a problem with that. And I had this on watercolor paper that I got from Walmart. So the Memento ink, even on this paper with the Copics, it still didn't let it bleed out. So another stamp that I used, another two stamps that I used for the snail, this gorgeous little critter. I just love him. He's so adorable. This is another Magnolia stamp. The mushrooms are another Magnolia stamp. They have such beautiful stamps. For the butterfly, I really love this butterfly. This is from Stampin' Up! Time Well Spent. This is the butterfly that I used here. These flowers are just from one of the other sheets that I used, and I colored them, cut them out. And I also cut out the panels and then lifted them on the edges to give it more dimension. I folded, lifted, and stuff like that. I distressed the whole thing, and of course using my Tim Holtz Distress tool. and I painted this panel. This panel was in one of the packs of paper that I had ordered from creativeinspirations.ca. It was just a panel that she put in there so the paper wouldn't bend, and I just painted over it with my black gesso. So that's what I used for that. For some of these as well, if you notice the darker edges on the flowers, I almost forgot, I used the Dilutions ink spray. That's what I used for that. Actually, that's what I used for this balloon. I made a mistake. This was not the picked raspberry. It was the Dilutions ink spray. I apologize for that. I did this a while ago, so I'm trying to remember everything. For his little shell, I also used a mixture of the Dilutions Peacock, and I believe the orange is also, so these three are what I used for his tail. So after I had that done, I wanted to do a ribbon, so I cut out a material that I had and I braided it, and then I just inked it up with, I believe, these are the two inks that I used. So this is Summer Sky, Prima Color Bloom Summer Sky, and Emerald. So the Color Bloom sprays. So I just, before I braided it, I just cut the strips in half, laid them on my sheet, sprayed them down, soaked them, and then braided them together. And then more flowers from one of the other sheets that I had used to get the flowers, I just cut them out and pasted them all over using my glossy accents. That's what I did there. So I think that's it. So you can see it's a really big project, so it's on a 12, it's actually, the sheet's 12 by 12. This panel's even bigger. Creativeinspirations.ca, the owner, Sue, she tended to put a lot of panels in the paper orders that I used to make sure nothing got bent, so they're a little bigger than 12 by 12. So I also used my crocodile, before I forget, and punched these eyelets here, put them in for the ribbon. So, but I think that's it. I hope you like this project. Oh, one more thing. Crafty Bond Quick Glue Dry. That's what I used to put it on here, the paper, the back sheet onto the paper, onto the cardstock, I mean, and put it down on the panel. So I hope you like this project. It's just a little fun wall hanging that I did for a kid's room. And if you like my videos, please like on the below the video. And if you want to see more and you want to get a notification that you're getting new one, or that I'm putting up new ones, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.